officially born, and Constantine became the first Christian emperor, or the first Christian pontiff. So the birth of Christianity came from here. This is where it was made official. This is where it was made into law. But we want to ask the question now, because it was made official and made into law by those who had power, did that make it genuine and authentic? Did that make it what Jesus Christ said and what he believed and that what he delivered as a message? Absolutely not. Today, there are millions of Christians in the world today who would be abhorred to know that this country or America or Great Britain, who are supposed to be Christian countries, have made into law that a man can marry a man and that a woman can marry a woman and that they can have this kind of nuclear family. Now, of course, since it's been made into law, you and I don't really have anything we can say about it because we don't have any power. So there's mommy families and daddy families. But you and I, who are people of Scripture, we are insulted because according to Scripture, that is a perversion. And we stand upon that it is a perversion, it is a corruption, and that God will never bless it, regardless of what the kings or the queens or the presidents or the councils say. And in the same light, because Constantine said something and made it into law didn't mean that it was adopted and accepted by God or it had anything to do with Jesus Christ. Because let me tell you about Constantine. Constantine was a pervert himself. That's number one, a pagan and a pervert who had a child by his sister and who didn't mind to lay down with boys. Setting all of that aside, he obviously was not qualified to have anything to say about Jesus Christ, but he had the power. The Council of Nicaea and those bishops themselves who said all of this, they also had no connection with Jesus Christ. And Paul, who delivered this doctrine upon which they convened, also had nothing to do with Jesus Christ at all. From a historical perspective, let me tell you who is Paul. And you can go to the Encyclopedia Britannica or you can go to any other source of documentation to find this. Don't be angry with Khalid. I'm just going to pull it back and let you see it. Paul, originally his name was Saul of Tarsus. He was born into a Jewish family. But because he wanted Roman citizenship more than he wanted the Jewish faith, he was a gentleman and a scholar, a Gentile man and a scholar. In that day, a Gentile man and a scholar meant that he was a Jew, because the scholars that day, on that time, the scholars, the writers, they were Jewish. A Gentile man meant a Roman citizen. So he had the best of two worlds. A Gentile man and a scholar, Paul. His name was Saul. What was his occupation? He was a bounty hunter. That was his occupation. And who did he hunt? He hunted Christians. That's how he made his money. That was his passion. And on one particular day, Paul and two or three other of his bounty hunter friends were on their way to Damascus looking for more Christians. They were riding on donkeys. And Paul said that he saw a light that blinded him. And he fell off his donkey. The other people who were riding with him, they didn't see the light, they didn't hear no voice, and they didn't fall off their donkey. But Paul said, I saw a light, it blinded me. I heard a voice, I fell off my donkey. And in front of me was Jesus Christ speaking to me. And Jesus said to me, Paul, Paul, why do you kick? Why do you kick? Why do you resist me? Paul, Paul, I appoint you as my apostle to the Gentiles. Now, if you think that's a bit odd, let's examine that. First of all, this was after Jesus Christ was taken away. Whether you want to say he was crucified and resurrected, or whether you want to say he was lifted up to God, he was away, gone. Paul never in his life set his eyes upon Jesus Christ. So Paul didn't know what Jesus Christ looked like. So I ask you, if he fell off his donkey, he heard a voice and he saw a light, or whatever he said, we can't argue with that. He could have been high, he could have been drunk, he could have been confused, he could have been tired, whatever. But I ask you, if he never saw Jesus Christ himself ever, how would he know what Jesus Christ looked like in that vision? How would you or I, if I never met my mother, and one day I saw a light and I fell off my bicycle, and I saw my mother in a vision, and she said, son, son, why you resist me? Why you don't accept me? And then after that I said, I saw my mother. Someone would ask me, did you ever see a picture of your mother? Did you ever see your mother? I said, no. How would I know what she looked like? So I ask you, how would Paul have known that what he saw in that vision was Jesus Christ? There was no Polaroids in that day. He never met Jesus. He was never in the company of Jesus. So that's one problem. The second problem is, if there were 2 or 3 other people with him, why didn't those people also attest to what Paul said he heard and saw? So it was something only he heard and something only he saw, but he had no way of being able to identify Jesus Christ, so he had no way of determining and proving that what he saw was Jesus Christ. The third thing is, if Jesus Christ appointed him as an apostle to the Gentiles, but in a previous revelation Jesus Christ said, I have not, he said, go not unto the town of the Samaritans, go not unto the town of the Ephesians or the Romans or into any other town with my message, for I have not been sent to them, but I've been sent to the lost sheep of the tribe of Israel. So if he told his companions that he was sent to the lost tribe of Israel, but in this particular vision he told Paul, go unto the Romans as my apostle. There's a problem with that. After that, Paul said, I went straight away and I preached the gospel of Jesus Christ and that he was the Son of God to all people. So what was he basing his preaching upon? Did he go to the disciples of Jesus Christ and find out what Jesus Christ was actually teaching? No, he did not. And when finally he did meet the disciples of Jesus Christ in Jerusalem, what was the nature of that meeting? I'll tell you. They rejected Paul. They called him an infidel, and they said that he was preaching things which the master never said. And they made plans to bind him and to hang him in Jerusalem, the disciples. But Paul left, and he went unto the towns, the Colossians, the Ephesians, the Romans, the Corinthians, and he preached his own words, words that were not supported by the disciples themselves, who saw, who talked, who walked, who learned, who understood the message of Jesus Christ directly as you are here tonight. I say to you, whom would we believe? The disciples of Jesus Christ or Paul? who saw something in a vision that he would not have been able to determine was Jesus Christ at all. From that vision, Paul began to expound upon a dialectic that today is what the basis of what the Council of Nicaea created. This is built upon the doctrine of Paul. They used the doctrine and the dialectic of Paul and his 16 letters. The New Testament is 16 books that belong to Paul. Some Christian fathers say 15. But most, they say the book of Acts also is Paul's writing. That makes it 16. Then there are 4 more books: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And 2 other books, we don't know what their real names are, but they are ascribed as additional books.